In this video, we are going to recap Notre Dame versus UConn. And of course, Hannah Hidalgo will get flowers. Actually, in this video, she's likely to get hearts, but we'll explain that later. In addition, we will give player grades to all the players on Notre Dame and UConn. Yes, beware, the red pen is coming out. But before we start, if you enjoy the content, then please consider giving the video a like and subscribing to the channel. Thank you very much. 10K. We reached it. All right, let's get into this. So let's start with the winners. The winners are grinners. Let's start with Notre Dame. And if we are starting with Notre Dame, we are going to start with Hannah Hidalgo. She is the best double H since Heart to Heart and Stephanie Powers and Robert Wagner, but I'll give more love to Stephanie Powers. All right, she is just big in the big games and has collected scalps since she started her career. So obviously last year she got Beckers when they went to UConn to play. And then again this year she started by taking down Juju, going for 24 points, 6 rebounds, 8 assists, and 5 steals. In this game versus UConn, she went for 29 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, 3 steals, and had only 3 turnovers. They asked Gino Auriemma about her in the post-game press conference, and he was like, the thing that sets her apart is she's always attacking.
Her talent is obvious. I mean, that's, even if you're not a basketball person, you can tell that there's a talent level that she has that's pretty unique, But I think more importantly is the way she attacks everything that she does. The way she attacks your defense, the way when she's on defense she attacks your offense, and I think the way that she leads her team, in so many different ways. So I think you put all those 3 things together, and it's just a really, really, really difficult matchup for anybody.
I agree with that as well. She just seems to have no fear. The bigger the game, you expect her to play better. To me, I know it's a different sport, and I've said this before, but she just reminds me of Lawrence Taylor of the Giants, who would just terrorize teams. Same thing, a bit of Troy Polamalu, as she's the fastest player on the floor, but she uses her speed well. I thought in this game, she did a nice job of, she didn't come out strong early, but just staying with it, and then she got it going. And then in the third quarter, when she had ice, when she got the switch on Ice Brady, you knew that was over. And that's the type of player she is. When if you're going against her, you're just like, oh no, not this player taking the shot. This is going to go bad for my team. So Hannah Hidalgo, you get an A+. You were the best player on the court. But Hidalgo did have help. First of all, Olivia Miles, you get an A, and that is for not sustaining a serious lower leg injury. Luckily, it was only an ankle, and she was able to come back and be effective in this game. The other thing, Miles has modified her game to be effective with Hannah Hidalgo, and that should be applauded. She has really done a good job with her shot, and in this game, once again, very efficient for 16 points. She went 6 of 9 from the floor, and 2 for 4 from the three-point line, 50%. Yeah, I just can't say enough about how Miles has adjusted her game to make Notre Dame that much better, and that should be applauded. The next one is Sonia Citron. She gets an A, so she's not off the charts in terms of numbers, as she only went for 7 points on 2 for 5 of shooting. But obviously, she did a great job on Beckers, made Beckers work for everything. Now, I'm sure UConn fans will argue and say, my God, she was holding her off the ball, and basically legalized assault was taking place. How the heck did Beckers only go to the line 4 times during this game? And the free throw disparity in this game was striking: 5 for UConn and 14 for Notre Dame. But that's what you get when you're on the road. You should expect that. Much like Hannah Hidalgo, this is the second scalp for Citron, as she gave Juju Watkins all sorts of problems and made her inefficient. Beckers was actually efficient, but still she made Beckers work for all of her points. So Sonia Citron, you get an A. Now the other player for Notre Dame that's going to get an A as well is Litui King, as she got 16 points and an efficient 16 points on 8 of 14 shooting. And overall, she is just a great transfer addition, as she's just a plug-in player. She'll do whatever is required. I think of her in terms of a poor man's Anissa Morrow, as she's only 6 foot, but effectively she plays a big game and can mix it up with the bigger players. Now that one rebound, that was like an Australian rules rugby mark, if you like. She climbed the back to get that spectacular rebound, but still it was fun to watch. I agreed with Lobo on that. The final starter for Notre Dame is Kate Cavall, and she gets a B. She was solid on offense, 2 for 7 for 4 points. But the key thing is she's doing what Notre Dame needs, which is getting rebounds. She got 7 rebounds and 2 blocks, controlling the middle. And frankly, that's what they need from her, and that's what they're getting, which is even more impressive considering that she is a freshman. Now, the final 2 player grades for Notre Dame are the players that came off the bench. So, Carlin and Prosper, I give them both C pluses. Welcome back, Carlin, from her foot injury. She got 10 minutes. She looks fine. She'll gradually ramp up and just gives Notre Dame more options. You can see it'll work out. And then Prosper got 18 minutes, only 3 points, but you don't lose anything in terms of defense when you have Prosper out there. You feel she'll get better as the season goes along, and that's what makes Notre Dame so good. And if I was giving an early overall grade for Notre Dame, it would be an A because they've played a tough schedule, which has allowed them to develop their players. They're developing Cavall. Well, when they get Maddie Westbeld back, if she's able to return, that just makes them so much more deadly as they'll be able to run pick and pop. Miles and Hidalgo will run pick and pop with her all day long in the half-court game. It just gives them another option. They could play small as well with Westbeld playing the 5. So bullish on Notre Dame. Now, with this, I'm not saying Notre Dame's going to win the championship. I don't think you can really do that this season. I think there are teams that have a chance to win the championship. Notre Dame is clearly in that mix. They've demonstrated that in their schedule. They've demonstrated we can beat any team in women's college basketball on our night. To top things off for Notre Dame, even the negatives are a positive. If I'm a Notre Dame fan, I'm happy about the 2 losses to Utah and TCU to prevent a little bit of big head-itis. That keeps them grounded and they know they need to play and develop throughout the season. Now let's move on to UConn and do the post-mortem for them on this loss. We will first go through player grades and then talk about overall at the end where UConn is and give them an overall grade. So first of all, Paige Bueckers. She gets a B+, and I'm curious to see if people think that's too harsh or too nice. Actually, I regret asking that, as it'll simply come down to 2 camps. If you're a Paige Bueckers lover, then she was unbelievably efficient in this game, going for 25 points on 11 of 20 shooting, despite Notre Dame game planning to stop her and limit her ability to score. If you're in the Bueckers is overrated camp, then you would say stats are for losers. It was a big game, and clearly Miles made the big shots when she needed to. You'd probably point to that transition 3 when UConn was making a run. She had the open look and missed it. And you'd say stats are for loser, but then you would point out how she went 0 for 4 from 3-point range. For me, Bueckers played well. I thought it was impressive how early on she struggled and then regathered herself and gave a strong performance overall for the entire game and was much more effective versus Citron than what Juju Watkins was, where Juju Watkins continued to force it the whole entire game. I like Paige Bueckers' game, but I'm sure there'll be lots of arguments in the comments section. But let's move on. Ashlyn Shade, she got the worst grade for me. She got a D-, and basically Shade could not hit a shot. There was one in transition where she missed it, and you just knew it wasn't her night. And then they came back down, and she went underneath the pick, and Miles hit like a mid-range jumper, and Gino took her off. I don't think she returned after that. And that's the problem with Shade. It's her effectiveness in games is dependent on her shot, because in terms of defense and other things she does and rebounding, she's a jag, if you like, just another girl. It doesn't show out. But it does if it's a lesser team, like if it's a lower ranked team like a Louisville or something like that, then she can show out. But in the big games like UCLA, she did not play well last year. In the South Carolina game last year, she didn't play well. She got 14 points, but it was on 6 of 19 shooting, and she was only 2 of 11 from 3-point range. During the tournament as well versus the University of Southern Cal, I remember Gino having to go to Caden Samuels just to make the matchup work, as she was really ineffective against their bigger guards. And overall, that's my questions. Against the elite teams with bigger, more physical athletic guards, can she hold up? Or really be impactful if her shot is not falling, like what happened in those games where her shot wasn't falling, therefore she wasn't impactful at all, and better options. If she's not shooting, there's no point for her being on the court in those games. Now, the next starter we'll look at is Caitlin Chen. I would give her a C+. The positives, she held up to the pressure pretty well. She only had 3 turnovers, which is impressive versus Notre Dame. And overall, they only had 13 turnovers, which is very impressive when you're playing against Hannah Hidalgo and Miles. She went for an efficient 11 points, going 5 of 10. The one thing that I see sometimes in Chin is the ghost of Nika Mule. There was one turnover where she threw the pass. I don't know what she was thinking. There was no chance. It was a long, almost cross-court pass that had no chance. She made up for it by getting the charge on Hannah Hidalgo. So it was actually turned out well for UConn. It's like, ooh, what are you thinking there? And then there was at the end of the one possession where she was playing good defense. I think it was on Hidalgo, and then got a late foul in the shot clock. And that was, yeah, like I said, that reminded me of the ghost of Nika Mule, as that would seem like the type of thing she would do. The next player we'll look at is Sarah Strong. I would give her a B+. Like, she was her usual solid self as she went for 14 points. Of course, efficient on 6 of 12 shooting. She shot 2 of 7 from three-point land. It was funny. In a game of no fouls being called for the most part, she just seemed to be the unlucky player to get the fouls on her. Like the one on Hidalgo, I thought that was a bit, or it might have been Miles, I can't remember, but the 3-point foul, I thought that was a little bit of a touch foul. I thought Miles sold it, which that's what they should do. The other one on the long rebound to get her 3rd foul, which was impactful, I just thought she was at the wrong place, wrong time. I didn't really think that was a foul. And interestingly, I imagine if you're a UConn fan, you were thinking when Miles went off, I was thinking, okay, is this going to be the turning point in the game? Because I fully expected UConn to fall apart without her on the court. And that just shows you the impact that Sarah Strong has on UConn and how she's effectively their number 2 player. And it's not fair to ask this of a freshman, but they need her to play better. They need her every time she gets the ball, almost looking to score or have an impact. Gino said in the postgame she was a little bit too passive at times, but overall, you still can't have any complaints with Sarah Strong. But if UConn, for where they want to go, they need a more impactful Sarah Strong. As Gino said in the postgame, she is a pleaser. She just wants to make everybody happy and have her teammates involved. And that's not a problem. That's not a bad thing until it is, like he said.
For me, for Sarah, it's just a matter of she needs to be playing college basketball a little bit longer to really start to showcase all the things that she can do. She's still too much of a pleaser, you know. So that's not a bad thing until it is.
The final starter is Ice Brady. She gets a D in my book, which is pretty obvious as she was benched at the start of the second half. Now, they might not say that's a benching, but in my mind it was, because in the first half, Brady got 15 minutes, and in the second half, Brady was limited to 7 minutes and 37 seconds. At halftime, Brady had only scored 4 points on 2 for 5 shooting, but that wasn't the issue. The issue was rebounding. In the first half, UConn lost the battle of the boards 16-25, and they gave up 10 offensive rebounds to Notre Dame versus UConn only got 5 offensive rebounds. There was one play where Ice Brady did like a turnaround fadeaway jumper, and I know Gino hates that as she missed it, and it just was not a good, impactful game for her. And they went to El Alfie, hence why El Alfie started the second half. Now, I take notes during these games. It just makes it easier for editing, and I'm a nerd, I guess. But anyway, at the end of the first quarter, I wrote in my notes that the best lineup they have is El Alfie, Paige Becker, Sarah Strong, KK Arnold, and Caitlin Chin on the court. And Gino seems to agree with this, as that's the lineup he started the third with and the one that made its move to get UConn back into the game, and that's the same lineup, funny enough, in the fourth quarter that got crushed. But overall, I think Jana El Alfie is the long-term solution at center. I keep on banging on this. She's inconsistent at times, but I just think she offers so much more. So for El Alfie, I would give her a C+ in this game, as she shows flashes and gave you more, in my mind, than Brady did. I know that Caval got a block on her, but I like the way she takes it and tries to take it to the basket. And if that happens, you go against somebody, you're going to get your shot blocked. And then she came back and she didn't shy away from it and did like an up and under sort of finger roll. Yeah, I want to see more Jana El Alfie. And then have Ice come off the bench. KK Arnold did not start this game, but effectively she was a starter because she was a better option than Ashlyn Shade, as she got 30 minutes versus Shade, who only got 21 minutes. I like the way KK pushes the ball up in transition. Sometimes she gets too deep under the basket, but overall, she gives you more athleticism out there when she's on the court. I wish she had more confidence in her three-point shot, but overall, if it's a choice between KK or Ashlyn Shade, I'm going with KK. Shade's shots not falling. Overall, I think the hope is AZ Fudd gets healthy, and then it'll just be a combination of Chin and KK sharing minutes, which I'm fine with. I think their games sort of mesh well together, and one gives you more outside shooting in terms of Chin. I think KK gives you a better push player and better potentially perimeter defense. And it's almost like the old Miami Dolphins. I think they had Woodstruck, the two quarterbacks. I think UConn fans would be happy for Chin K to be their point guard solution. With a healthy AZ Fudd lighting it up at the guard spot and giving a third scoring option to UConn. But if AZ Fudd is not out there, then yeah, I like Chin and KK together. Lastly, the other two bench players for UConn, Q got 2 minutes and really didn't do much. She get a C minus. She had a brief chance, probably not fair, but I would give her a C minus as she really didn't shine or do anything spectacular. Morgan Shelley, C minus as well. She got 5 minutes. Gino tried to go super small, putting Strong at the 5 and Shelley at the 4. And overall, Gino talked about when he was talking about how impressive Sarah Strong is, about how she never gets sped up and she just takes the game at her own pace. And that was revealing with Morgan Shelley. As Shelley was just rushing everything, at one point she fell down and she just needs more time. But yeah, she gets a C minus. Overall, where does UConn stand? Well, the positives are that they didn't get blown out, which was a real possibility. When you lose the three-point battle by 7 shots and then the free throw battle by 8 shots or 8 points, and well, the rebound battle by 8 rebounds, a blowout was on the table. The only reason they didn't get blown out, Beckers and Strong played pretty well. In addition, they didn't turn over the ball. I would say the other positive is it's becoming clear who your best players are, at least in my mind. I think you want Ice Brady coming off the bench and El Alfie to be your starter, to be determined if that happens. And probably the biggest positive is that this loss came in December and not in March. So there's still time to put this team together. You can see the parts and see how it might come together. Which is AZ returns for your third scoring option. Yes, a big question mark as well. Aubrey Griffin comes back, gives you another scoring option. It's always worrisome helping or depending on injured players to return. So you would be a bit nervous about that. The other thing, Sarah Strong just getting more and more aggressive as the season progresses. The other good thing is UConn has one last test this season, or road test, which would be going to South Carolina in their building. That would be, the hope would be UConn, for UConn fan, that they win versus Southern Cal, get better on the weak Big East, and then demonstrate that the battleship is fully operational when they go against South Carolina and play really well and give them their first home loss in years. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm saying that's what the UConn hope is. And then ultimately, the whole Paige Beckers, is she overrated, underrated, or what is she? It's all going to come down to what happens in March. If she gets her championship, then it's a story, a beautiful story, and she walks off into the sunset going into the WNBA. If she doesn't, then yeah, that will really tarnish her legacy, and she'll likely be one of the best, or I would say the best UConn player not to win a championship. So for an early overall season grade, I would give UConn a B. Now it is over to you, your feedback, your comments. It's all welcome. I'm sure I'll get corrected on my grading. Some will say I'm too harsh, some will say I'm too nice. Either way, thanks a lot for watching. Hope to see you next time. Good night.